Okay, guys and girls, so today we are going to look at, well, at this point, you should have finished all the Andrew Jackson stuff. We just did a lesson on the highlights and the lowlights. Now we're in period 2 of today. We just need to look at this focus question. How did the United States finally look like the country we know it as today? So the good thing is, since we're not doing this live, you could just pause the video and write down the focus question and then turn the video back on when you're ready. We are also going to look at the do now. What does the word destiny mean? So if you need to look it up quick, that would be fine. You could do that as well. And what does it mean when it's someone's destiny to do something? So pause the video, okay, and then we could go over this once you're done. All right. So what does destiny mean? Well, destiny is basically a term that's sometimes used biblically, sometimes used in the Bible, but destiny is basically like are the events that are going to happen in the future, and if it's someone's destiny to do something, basically like it's going to happen in the future, and people are going to have to kind of accept that. So we're going to look at the term today, manifest destiny. Manifest destiny is a big term that we looked at in 7th grade. Now we're going to look at it from the 11th grade version, which is kind of looking at how manifest destiny wasn't just about expanding westward, but how it kind of affected the different groups of people and how it ultimately leads something called the Mexican-American War. All right. So this is what the United States looked like last where we left off. This is in 1803. We obviously have the 13 states, okay, the territories in the Ohio River Valley in the south, and then we obviously got the Louisiana Purchase. This in red is what the country looks like. All right, right now around this area, okay, this area of Texas is owned by the Mexico. Areas over here, if you follow my mouse, are pretty much owned by Mexico as well. Up to the northwest is owned by Oregon country. And this area here is owned by Great Britain. And of course, Florida was owned by Spain. So our country is still not fully coming together. But by the 1853, by the end of Manifest Destiny, our mainland of the United States will be completely filled out and look like the way it does in 2020. All right. And this was Manifest Destiny. It wasn't a law. It wasn't a policy. It was just something that the government preached. It was something that everyone followed at the time. And we're going to see how and why this kind of went about. All right. Because at this point, we have about 2/3 of our country. All right. We're going to look at the rest of this and how it kind of fills out to become the official United States of America. All right. So this is a very famous photo. I'm sure you saw it last year. I'm sure this looks somewhat familiar to you. Again, many people back in American history were religious. So you have this angel kind of pointing westward. You have buffalo moving westward. You have wagons moving westward. You have Native Americans moving westward. You have settlers moving westward. You have trains moving westward. Everything's moving westward. All right, this was a big push by the federal government to try and fill out the mainland of the United States. And again, they use that term, manifest destiny. It's America's destiny to own Atlantic Ocean to Pacific Ocean. And this photo was a very popular photo, or picture, I should say, not photo. This portrait, okay, this painting was a big photo to try and get people moving westward. Everyone's moving westward. I love the light to dark aspect of it. I'm not a big art guy, but you could tell what the artist is trying to do here. Okay, it's very light in the east. Everyone's moving westward. It's dark. Okay, it's kind of like an unknown type of land. But with God or angels behind you, okay, also moving westward, it's all going to be okay. All right, so this is a very good and popular photo. It's one we could break down a lot more if we wanted to, but this is a big term that big picture you'd see at the time. All right, so again, if at any point you need to just pause the video, this is the one slide you need to copy down. How did manifest destiny shape the mainland of the United States? Manifest destiny, okay, this is the actual definition. If you remember from last year, this shouldn't seem too crazy, but it was the term that the U.S. government told their citizens that it was not only their right, but their destiny to move out west and start a new life with their family. All right, now what I want to say is this. Number one, we've kind of been moving westward ever since the Treaty of Paris in 1783. Then, of course, we have the Louisiana Purchase, so people are continuing to move westward. But the biggest westward push we had in our country was during this Manifest Destiny time period, which is like 1845 to 1849, or maybe a little before, but in the 1840s. All right, and this is where we have our biggest move of settlers out west. This is known as the westward expansion period. And the United States' main goal with Manifest Destiny was very simple: possess all land in North America from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. Now we need to go back for a second. There are other countries that own here. There's other countries that own here. All right. This will sometimes lead to conflict, and sometimes it won't be much of a problem. So let me just say right now, the Oregon country, it's not something you need to write down. It's not something you need to even know because it's not on the Regents. But we signed something called the Oregon Treaty in 1846, which is us buying land from Oregon, buying the Oregon land from Great Britain. Just like we bought it from France, the Louisiana Purchase, we bought with the Oregon Treaty from Great Britain, the same exact thing. Now, it's never come up on the Regents. This is more of an AP U.S. history thing. It's more of a college U.S. history thing. So you don't need to know it. What you do need to know is what happens here with Mexico. Because what happens here is something we're going to focus on more tomorrow. But it's not going to be very nice. Okay, we're going to talk about what happens tomorrow. All right. And oh man, I forget off the top of my head. I think he's our 10th president. No, he's our 11th president. So James K. Polk, our 11th president, is an underratedly important person on the Regents. He doesn't have as big of a name as Thomas Jefferson or John Adams or Abraham Lincoln or Franklin D. Roosevelt, but he comes up an underrated amount because in the 1840s, he was what's known as the Manifest Destiny president. So he was all about trying to move westward. He was all about trying to expand our country's borders. So a huge part of his presidency was focused in on that. So he gets known as the Manifest Destiny president. So keep him in mind over the next couple of days and weeks as you're reviewing. He is known as our Manifest Destiny president, and you're going to learn what happens kind of tomorrow when we look at what's known as the Mexican-American War. All right, so if you need to pause the video, please do. Let's get in our last slide for today. Again, we don't need to write anything down besides, I would say this. Please write down that some of the land comes easy. Okay, so I'll put that in yellow too. All right, this is how, I will write this down here. All I need to know is that, all I want you to know is that we purchased Florida. Okay, we basically purchased the Oregon Treaty. Okay, so where am I here? What's going on, Mr. Fannia? Beautiful. That's not it. Oh my God, I'm rusty. Long weekend. Okay, there we go. All right, so some of the land comes easy. So please write down, that we purchased Florida. Okay, this was a very simple thing. We paid Spain some money. I don't want to say it was free. It was essentially free. It was so incredibly cheap. They didn't want control over it anymore. They just got out of there. Right? This is in 1819. In 1846, we've already mentioned the Oregon Treaty. Britain compromised it over to the United States. We paid them some money. They gave it over to us, along with some other deals. Again, not something you need to know. However, I really think we should write down for the first time the California Gold Rush. Though we will focus in more on this tomorrow. This is something. Jagesh, I'm just doing a lesson that I'm recording for another class, so just hang tight for a second. So the California Gold Rush is a term which was basically when we get California, which we'll learn how tomorrow. Gold was discovered in 1848. So this made those particular groups of people filthy rich. Obviously, if you found gold at this time, you struck gold, it's called, you made a lot of money. So this word kind of got around, and others follow in our footsteps to strike gold as well. People moved westward in the United States. People came from China. People moved north from Mexico. Everyone was moving to California. And what this did was it started to fill out our country from Atlantic Ocean to Pacific Ocean, though we will learn that people were largely unsuccessful when doing this. All right, so again, if you need to pause the video and copy that down, please do. Um, let's see. So what you're going to do for the last thing for today, you are going to work on this assignment. Hamza, I'm not you're early again, so I'm doing a separate lesson for my Regents class, so just hang tight for a second. They'll be here at 8:25. You guys are early. All right, so manifest destiny. Let me just read the test to you. Manifest destiny is the idea the Americans had the God-given right to expand from the Atlantic Ocean in the eastern part of the continent to the Pacific Ocean in the western part of the continent. Think about how each person or group of people below would have felt about this idea of American expansion from sea to shining sea. For each person or group of people, write 2 to 3 sentences describing how you believe that they would have felt about manifest destiny. Don't just say something like mad, say why manifest destiny would have made them mad. So 2 or 3 sentences explain how would Native Americans feel about manifest destiny. Okay. Is this something you could research? Yes. Is it something I think you need to research? No. Think logically. Think of what happens when we start moving westward and we get into areas of Native Americans. Think about what happens. Okay, so 2 to 3 sentences on that. The further you move westward, think about how that changes for an American farmer. All I'm curious to see is, how you're able to analyze how manifest destiny would have worked. What about the president of the United States? How would James K. Polk feel about our country going? What does it mean when we have more land? Okay, there's this old saying, more land means more power. I'm not sure if that's necessarily true in all cases, but maybe that's something that James K. Polk believes. All right, slaves. All right, this is a little bit of a preview before we get into the Civil War topic, how would slaves feel that manifest destiny is occurring now that slavery might not just be in the South at this point. And the last group is the Mexican government and citizens. Okay, why do they matter? What's going on at this point in time, and how would manifest destiny affect them? And then obviously write the exit ticket as best you can. So this is a lot of analysis. Okay, do the best you can with it. Try and fill in these boxes. If you want to research, you can research. But again, I don't think you need to if you just really take a second and think and put yourself in this perspective as these type of people. All right, so that's it for today. Make sure all the assignments are turned in. Make sure this is filled in and then turned in when you're done so you get credit for today. There is no secret word today because I will just simply be grading this to make sure that you've done what you need to do, and we go from there. All right, have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.